Hi, grade 12s. It's that time of the year again where we are preparing for our prelim. And in this video, we're looking at the CAT theory paper. This is the one that usually comes towards the end of the exams, but we want to be well prepared because it's the paper that a lot of people complain about. So we're going to be looking at the structure of the paper itself. And here you can see the typical layout that we find that makes up around our 150 marks. Is multiple choice, match the column, true or false, system tech, internet and network tech, information management, social implications, social development, and the big one, the integrated scenario. Now, of these, the first three usually count for about maybe 15, 20 marks. Your integrated scenario on its own is around about 40 to 50 marks. So just make a note of that. That is the big question in your paper. Okay, so let's look at the first section, usually dealing with multiple choice. Now, here are a few examples, and here you can see our top one says select the most appropriate answer to each question. And then they ask the question, which device is not an input device? Now, again, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that we look at the question first. So we're talking about input devices. What are they? They are devices that give instructions to the computer. That can be a joystick, it can be a keyboard, it can be a mouse. Having said that, let's look at the options. A speaker, is that an input device? No, because it brings sound out of the PC, right? A trackball is like a mouse. Fingerprint scanner, we are scanning our fingerprint into the machine or device. And a joystick, as I mentioned. So we can see A is going to be the answer. Then the next one, which of the following assists the user in organizing, maintaining, and improving the efficiency of a computer system? Now, if you're not sure on the question itself, go to the answers, right? Go to the answers. What do those things mean? When we talk about communication software, we're talking about a program that helps you communicate. So it could be email, it could be instant messaging, your WhatsApp, Skype calls, WhatsApp calls, anything like that. Utility software. This is software that performs specific functions, and with our operating systems, they are built in. So things like disk cleanup, disk defragmentation, our database management software. So something like access, and then access control, where we using maybe a code to unlock a door. Those sort of things. So, having said that, does access control line up with the question? No. Communication software? No. We're talking about what helps you as the user to organize, maintain, and improve the efficiency of your computer. That is going to be your utility software. So you can see it's just about approaching these questions correctly. Here's another two. Which one of the following refers to a sequence of folders that leads to the location of a specific file? Again, if you understand these answers, then you'll be able to get the right one. Okay, and that's going to be our path. Remember our file path that goes like C, indicating the drive, and then the first folder, and the next one, and the next one. I should actually have one on the screen here so that you can see what a file path looks like. Okay, and that's the sequence of folders that leads to the location. A hierarchy is where you have the different levels, like saying you've got a principal and then two deputies and then the HODs, etc. We know what a file extension and a subfolder is. So you can see already by me knowing this and saying, well, it's got nothing to do with that, I'm eliminating two. Okay, so try and make it as easy on yourself as possible. Here's another one. Which one of the following statements about ICT is false? And we can see here data can be sent for processing as it's collected. The user is an important part of the ICT system. Debiting bank accounts is one of the processes in a POS system. And the use of ICT increases the need for resources such as paper. Now, immediately this stands out for me because the use of ICT increases the need. No, the more we use ICT, the less we need over there. Okay? And that is then going to be my statement that's false, because debiting bank accounts is one of the processes in a point of sale system. Yes, because when you pay, it takes that money off your account, right? So just in case you were a bit wary about that. Right, then we move on to match the column. Now, match the column you'll see that in all of these examples, well, both these examples, we've got more options than we have definitions. Okay, you'll see in the next one, they're looking for 5 and they're giving you like, more than 10. The reason is to confuse you. So one of the things I usually advise learners to do, and what I'll advise you to do, is to look at your column B first. There's column B again. Have a look at those 2 first. And then what you want to do is go through these options and see if there are terms that you understand there. So a trackball, we just chatted about that earlier. DIMMs, okay, this is relating to memory. iOS, Apple operating system. Copyright, okay, illegal copies of things. We don't want to do that. A15, that's a cell from Excel. And basically going through everything like that. Once I've done that, now I'm going to go and look at column A and say, well, okay, let me just use this for example. I went through and I said, okay, this is a shortcut key to undo, because I know Control Z will do my undo, and then Control Y will do the redo of the undo. Okay, and if you're not sure about those things, guys, please go and check out my videos on shortcut keys that we should know. Okay, so here, a shortcut key to undo an action. Now, because I've gone through this, I can say, oh, wait, I remember that. And I can go and check that out. An example of a dedicated device. Oh, wait, I went through an iPod. There we go. Okay, so please, this is how we can approach this. If we look at the next one, we know what plagiarism is. QR for our QR code, our path, RSS. And guys, I'm going to be covering a lot of this. For those of you who are on TikTok, you can follow me at Cat with Mr. H. I'm going to be going through all these different things, and TikTok is basically, I'm just going to be using it to cover those terms. So if there's anything you want me to do, just let me know. So again, once I've gone through all of that, I go over and I say, okay, laws that protect the ownership and rights to intellectual property, that's going to be copyright. Okay. Again, just because I went through column B, try to understand the terms that they have here, and then I go over to the definitions. Okay, so I hope that's helping you so far. Then the infamous true or false. Now, they'll always give you an example, and here they tell you in the example, a printer is an example of an output device. We know that is true, so we just answer true. But here's an incorrect one where it says a printer is an example of software. You'll see we don't rewrite the entire sentence. We say it's false, and we justify why it's false. And we do that by changing the underlined word. You need to read the instructions when it comes to this section, please. Here, for example, WinRAR is a utility program that compresses and decompresses files. If that is true, we leave it as true. Here's a different style. A legal agreement that describes what you may or may not do with the software. That's AUP and EULA. Now, they want us to choose one of them. The AUP is the acceptable use policy. The EULA is the end user license agreement. It's not an end user license agreement. It's an acceptable use policy, and that's the policy that guides how people can actually use the software or the internet activity that the particular place is providing. Okay. Then we move on to system technologies. And here we start getting different questions. And this is grade 12s. Please, you must understand these specs. When you see these specs, you must already, before you even look at the question, begin to say, okay, so I've got a full HD. That is my pixels. This is the size of the monitor. Is this referring to a desktop or a laptop? Well, let's have a look. There's my CPU model, the CPU speed, the amount of memory, my hard drive, no optical drive, which means there's no room for CDs or DVDs. Fingerprint reader, it's got Bluetooth, 2 USB ports, 1 HDMI. So that's already telling me this seems like a laptop. Built-in card reader, typical of laptops. 4-cell battery, there we go. That's going to tell me that it's a laptop. Besides the fact that it's not even talking about a CPU, not CPU, it's not talking about my PSU, which is the power supply unit, and they're talking about a display and not a monitor. If they mentioned monitor, it would be a separate device, but it's not, and then it comes with Windows 10 Home. So already I understand that, and it's important that you look at this in the way that I've just gone through. That's going to help you with the questions that come up. Here's a more detailed one. Okay, here you can see you're going for the model of the particular CPU. There they're telling you how much cache memories, how many cores, the speed. They go in detail on the motherboard, the graphics card, all those things. So I'm not saying that you're going to get something as detailed, but it's important that you understand this, not just for the subject, but for real life as well when you need to buy some equipment. Okay, continuing. Here are a few questions. Here's the first one. Give 2 reasons why portable computers are increasingly being designed not to include optical drives. Now, we can talk about the fact that USB flash drives are more popular. They are more convenient. They are easier to use. Here's another one. You are working with a wired mouse. It suddenly freezes. Assume that the mouse itself is clean and not damaged. Well, you could change the cables, where it's plugged into the USB port. You can plug it into another USB port. See if that works. You could perhaps plug it into another device. See if it works over there. Maybe you need to restart your PC. Any of those type of things. But you can see the type of questions that are coming up. Give 2 troubleshooting techniques that you could try to get a mouse working again. Okay, similar to that. So these are the type of questions that come through in this section. Name 2 pieces of equipment you would need for virtual reality. Well, you'd need the headset. You might need a handheld controller as well. State 1 example of how it can be used. Well, it can be used for racing simulations, or any sort of simulations for that matter. But these, again, are the kind of questions that come through. And then they're talking about health trackers. Name 2 types of outputs a user would expect to find on his or her health tracker, similar to those like fit watches or fitness watches. So it could monitor your heart rate, your pulse, anything like that. Then when we see DPI, they tell us here a printer offers the following 2 printer settings. DPI stands for dots per inch and refers to the quality. So it's got 2 settings, and this is probably like your low quality print and then your high quality print. Give 1 advantage and 1 disadvantage of using DPI. Well, with the 600 DPI, I'm going to get a better print. Okay. It is going to be slower than the 300 because the minute I print in high quality, it is going to take a little longer. It's going to use more ink if it's an inkjet printer, etc. So those are things that you need to look at over there. Right, the next section deals with the internet and network technology. So they're going to be asking you about the internet itself, networks, how they work. Here you can see, first question, name 2 services offered by an ISP. What's an ISP? That is your internet service provider. What do? They do website hosting. They sell you access to the internet itself. They can do email hosting as well. So any of those things. Here they give us some nice pictures relating to the speeds of downloading and uploading. Please remember, when we open websites and we are watching things, we are in effect downloading. Uploading is when we are sending files up to the internet. So if I'm now going to be streaming live, I'm going to be sending my signal across the internet. So that's going to be my upload. So around this, they'll always bring in terms that you need to explain, things like capped, uncapped, which, capped is the limit on your data. Uncapped is no limit on the data. Then you've also got throttled. Let me start this way. If you've been shaped, it means that there's certain things that are going to be prioritized in that time. So for example, between a very busy time of 5 to 7, you might be shaped, and this is what they will say, so that downloads, like general downloads, are prioritized. So they get more speed. So you might find that going onto YouTube might be a bit slower during that time, but generally your other website viewing is still operating on the normal speed. That's when you are shaped. When you're unshaped, obviously there's nothing like that. When you're being throttled, it means that the entirety of your speed is being slowed down. So if they tell you that you can experience throttling between 5 to 7 p.m., it means that the line speed, your total line speed, will be slowed down, like somebody choking you. They throttle, they cut off the air to your entire body. Yes, that's your throttling. So just remember that. Then they mention about synchronizing as well. So these are just some of the typical questions. You'll usually get some sort of diagram, and they start talking about the difference between a normal wired local area network and a wireless network. What are the pros? What are the cons around these things? You need to look at things like, well, there's cables and there's not cables. Which is cheaper? Which is cheaper to run? Which is cheaper to maintain? What allows users to connect easier to the internet or the network itself? And again, terms like VoIP, streaming, networks, the different types of networks, your LAN, your MAN, your WAN, your different protocols like your FTP, which are the rules that are in place for sending those files. Your file transfer protocol, and you actually have FTP servers that are there to facilitate that. Your topologies, this refers to the actual physical structures or physical layout of your network. Voice over IP, transmitting your voice over the internet. So yes, those are just some of the things that you'll find in that section. Then information management. This really deals with things like surveys, questionnaires. They explain why sometimes it's necessary to use a questionnaire to obtain information other than downloading it. They'll talk a bit about the actual programs themselves. They talk about giving 2 possible negative effects on society as a result of research based on fake news. Well, obviously, if people are basing their research based on fake news, they're going to make very bad decisions. And it can lead to panic in society. It can lead to various effects. You can name anything that sort of makes sense around that. Then they mention here, discuss 2 reasons why you should not use blogs as sources of academic research. Well, academic research are things that need to be proven. You can't just say, well, somebody on a blog. How credible is that person? Academic research involves using credible sources. People who have spent time and research on, putting on the internet what is there at the moment. Not just deciding, well, they're going to write a blog and this is their opinion. So just check the difference, especially with the mark allocation. Because here they just want 2 negative effects. Here you need to actually tell them in a more sentence-like fashion what the difference is or why you wouldn't actually use that. Then on the social implications side, we're looking at things like social engineering, where people are trying to get your details by conning you. We look at things like Twitter, Facebook, the various social media platforms, why people would be using it. And generally what would happen is they would use that in a scenario. So if they're talking, for example, about TikTok, they would use TikTok then in a scenario, maybe around an influencer, why the person would use this. Is it really viable for the person to use it in order to get paid, etc.? Here's another question. Give 1 type of output device that a blind person... Now, let me just stop there. Please don't make this mistake. Here's another one for blind people. Please don't make this mistake. There's a big difference between being blind and visually impaired. Visually impaired means I can still see, but there's some issues with my sight. Maybe I'm colorblind. Maybe... I've got to wear specs. Maybe, there's some other issue. Maybe my one eye is a bit clearer in terms of vision than the other one. But that's a visual impairment. Being blind means I can see nothing. Okay? Nothing. So please watch the question, the wording. 1 type of output device a blind person could use, it could help him use a computer. Well, it would be like a braille printer would be a good option there. Type of software that the blind person could use could be speech to text. Software could be one way you could give verbal instructions to the computer. Then we've got solution development. So these are really based off of your prac and the software and the things you've been doing practically, and basically bringing it across in a theoretical way. So they say a user wishes to create a hyperlink in a Word document. that links to a heading that has not been formatted. What must the user do before creating the hyperlink? So you will go and say, the user will have to highlight that particular heading, and then they'll have to go to insert, and hyperlink. Whatever the case is, you'll have to go through those. Here's some more. Explain how the mail merge works. And we know mail merge is a 4-step process. We start the mail merge, we select our recipients, insert merge fields, and finish our merge. Here they even give us an if statement. Okay, and they have already given it to you. What type of if is this called? Well, this particular one is a nested if because it's an if inside of an if statement. Without retyping and recapturing information, list 2 methods the secretary can use to integrate information between Office applications. Once you can use something like mail merge, that would work. She could import the one into the other, depending on what she's actually going to do. There would probably be a scenario with this as well. Okay, here's another one. One economic reason for not changing the default page color of a Word document. One reason why one must sometimes use the tabs dialog box when setting tab stops. Okay, it gives you more options than just going via the ruler. What can you do to make an Excel worksheet fit on one page when you print besides reducing it? Well, you can say fit to page or fit all columns on one page, all rows on one page. You can scale it. There's a number of things you can do there as well. You can see all of these are based on practical work. Here they give us inside the mail merge. Explain the purpose of the then by, which is over here, which means I want to sort records according to one item and maybe by another one as well. So I might want to sort it by subject and then by number within that subject. Okay. And then the big one, our integrated scenario.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Now, that's why I've got this emoji over here, because this is the one that can make or break you. Okay, because of everything that it has inside. So here you can see there's typical questions, things like grid computing, the limitations of cloud computing, and there's going to be a huge scenario normally around this. The dangers of using your smartphone constantly, computer theft. We have our multifunction printer here as well, and you can see they're even giving us a few questions coming from HTML. There's an HDMI cable. Yeah, they ask us, what sort of data type would you have over here if this was going to be your field? So again, the main purpose here is to show you the different types of questions that can come up. Here's another scenario. Your exotic zoo wildlife parks Facebook page has been in excellent working order and condition for a long time. Recently, some problems have occurred. The zoo manager started troubleshooting. Outline 2 possible reasons why the online social networking system is running slowly, assuming that there are no viruses. So you have to think out of the box with this. You have to think about things when it comes to troubleshooting. Okay. Now it could be that his internet speed has gone down. It could be that he's having ISP issues or issues with his internet service provider. It could be that there's some malware on the machine that's slowing it down. It could be he's running out of space, anything like that. Here they want us to define social networking. So we will just say what it is. Always check the mark allocation to see how much info you actually have to give. Things like the primary key, validation rule, input mask. In one paper, they actually asked you to explain what these terms are. You might even be asked to give an example. So be ready for those type of questions. Give the manager 2 tips he needs to consider when he creates graphs. Well, create simple graphs, well-labeled graphs. Have everything clearly set out in the graph so that it's very easily understood. At the bottom, the zoo manager is interested in buying an ergonomics always comes in, ergonomically designed keyboard. Give 2 reasons why it's a good idea. Well, it's going to be better if you're going to be doing a lot of typing. It is more comfortable. You get different types of ones depending on what the person is going to do. but it is better for the person's health as well. So those are just, again, some of the questions. Then, again, like I mentioned earlier, we could have a PC and a whole lot of specs, and they could be asking us questions on these, so please understand this. For example, something like a quad-core processor. Does that mean, because quad means 4, so there's 4 cores to this processor, does that mean it's physical cores? No, it's logical, which means that the physical processor has given responsibilities to the 4 parts of its actual CPU to say, well, 25% of my CPU power is going to deal with the graphics. 25% of my CPU power is going to deal with something else. So that when that resource needs the CPU, it will only take, a part of the CPU's power and attention. Yeah, some more. An eye tracking device is available. What category of user disability is this designed to accommodate? An eye tracker. That's going to mean that the person can't speak, and they might even have, it looks like they would have some sort of paralysis. So I would assume that this individual is probably paralyzed from the neck down. Ergonomically designed equipment. Okay, we spoke about that. One of the fields in the database has an OLE object data type. Suggest an appropriate data type that can be stored in this field. Well, in this field, you can insert pictures. So that would be something that you can. But you can see how the questions are structured, how they sort of ask them, and what they want from you. Here's some more, because this is the big one. State 2 functions of a UPS. What is a UPS? Uninterrupted power supply. What does it do? It gives you power while there's no actual power coming from our friends Eskom. So it keeps you running while there's no power. But this is for a limited period only. Okay. Give one example of a 2-step authentication notification. So as you make the purchase, it sends maybe a one-time PIN or something like that to your phone. You then enter that, and then the authentication goes through. Here they're talking about spreadsheets as well. Give one spreadsheet function that can be used to determine the number of learners that were absent. So what sort of function? You actually have to write that out. Here's another one. What does the HTTP indicate about the security of this website? It's indicating the protocol that's used, but because it doesn't have S, it's not as secure. Okay, so that's what that tells us. And grade 12s, now you are ready. If you've been preparing, you've been watching all the videos, you've gone through the theory prep, and you just keep doing that. You go through old papers, some of the old papers that are here, you will be fine. Don't forget, if you want to chat to me one-on-one, use the Discord platform. It's TikTok for our terms, and then our larger videos will stick and still be on YouTube. So thanks so much for joining me, guys, and I'll see you in our second prelim video where we focus on the prac.